Very good Sunday morning to you. I am Big Race Jim. You are watching Past the Wire TV, brought to you by our good friends at SureBet Coffee and AmWager. And we're 2 weeks away from the Kentucky Derby. And last week, I explained my power ratings and how I kind of separate some of the field and kind of outline some of my win contenders. If you missed last week's video, go back, check it out. I also put an article up on pastthewire.com this week explaining my super simple power ratings method, and I gave you every single rating for all the horses in the field. So if you missed it, pastthewire.com, go and check it out there. This week on Easter morning, we're going to share our top 5 Kentucky Derby board hitters. And kind of like what I did last week, I actually had 6 horses in there that I liked as win contenders. So I'm going to share 6 horses this morning that I think can hit the board. Now, let me preface this by saying, is this going to be, the 5 or 6 horse box that I use for exactas, trifectas, and superfectas? Absolutely not. These are horses that, at this juncture, 2 weeks out from the Derby, that I am strongly considering as keys in either my exactas, my trifectas, my superfectas. So as we go through, like for example, when I put the graphic up here shortly, you'll see Final Gambit, who can run and run and run and run and can still run. And I like him to kind of clunk up and finish 4th, 3rd, 2nd in the Derby. So what I'm looking for is a horse that has a really good late pace figure on Brisnet. And then from there, I go and decide where I want to slot this horse or another horse in to those exotic wagers, and kind of couple that the um, with the horses that I shared last week. So you will see a couple of horses from last week also appear on this list. Journalism, I'm very, very high on journalism. Sovereignty, very, very high on sovereignty. Maybe even a little bit higher on sovereignty than I am on journalism. And a lot of that has to do with the price. And we'll talk about that some more over the next couple of weeks, as well as we approach Kentucky Derby Day. Rodriguez also on this list. And a little caveat, Coal Battle would have been on this list as well. But I do have Baeza in there as a possible. But we'll talk about it, and we'll kind of explain all of this stuff for everybody as we go through here on Sunday Morning Coffee on Past the Wire TV on Easter Sunday, which is always exciting. So here we go. Here's what we're going to look at. Here are my top 6 Kentucky Derby board hitters. And again, like I say very often, if you've watched Past the Wire TV, if you followed me for any length of time, you know that I'm a big Brisnet handicapper. So in addition to the names on this list, I also included their Brisnet running style. And kind of looking at this, I feel like, let's take a couple of these with a grain of salt. because I think that there can be um, some margin for error, especially with some horses like Grande, for example, who's pretty lightly raced, and has shown some some differing some differing tactics. And I think we're going to lean on his Wood Memorial effort last time out, and maybe he's not exactly this forward running E like we've seen, but my top six Kentucky Derby board hitters are Journalism, Sovereignty, Final Gambit, Rodriguez, Grande, and Baeza. And he's got that asterisk because he's still on the outside looking in. So right now, as it stands on Easter morning, if Baeza gets in, he'll be a horse that I'm using in some form or fashion. And if he doesn't get in, then that sixth slot I think would be taken up by Coal Battle. And again, these aren't the six horses that I'm just going to box in the Exacta or the Trifecta or the Superfecta, because that's not a that's not a good way to bet this race. Like, sure, you could do that, and perhaps it perhaps it would hit. I think there's some decent horses in here with some differing running styles where it could make up the Exacta, the Trifecta, and or the Superfecta. Um, Certainly possible, but we want to be able to maximize our bankroll. So again, what I'm looking at this list is um, horses that I can key in a spot in that Exacta, Trifecta, Superfecta. So they are the only horse that I'm going to play in second. They're the only horse that I'm going to play in third. They're the only horse that I'm going to play in fourth, with even a win candidate key like I laid out last week. But let's dive into some of these horses and exactly why I like them. And again, Brisnet, I really lean on their late pace figures. It is a key handicapping angle for me, and there is no better late pace horse in this race, in my view, than Journalism. I just I cannot get past this horse. Santa Anita Derby 109 late pace after having a bit of an awkward trip. San Felipe 113 buyer, or not buyer, 113 late pace figure on Brisnet after Barnes was, ran out in front, and Journalism hawked him down and ran past him at the top of the stretch like Barnes was standing still. Los Al Futurity 104 late pace. Maiden Breaker 101 late pace. As these distances have gotten longer and longer and longer, he gets better and better and better. Speed figures up, late pace figures up, E2 pace figures, the middle of the race, which can be so critical in the Derby as these horses are settling down after that first quarter, after that first half mile, and they're finding their position, and then they're realizing that they've only got 12 more seconds to make up their mind and make a move. He has improved every single race in that regard as well. So Journalism, to me, is the favorite. He's one of the most likely winners, and he will be an absolute key on many of my tickets, in first, in second, or third. So he is in my view, a really strong candidate to hit the board. Um, Rodriguez is another one. Like I said last week, that Wood Memorial was super, super, super impressive, right? And I was talking to a friend whose opinion I respect a great deal, and he's a big Oaklawn guy, but also a big Aqueduct guy, and he thought that there was um, a speed bias on Wood Day at Aqueduct that kind of carried Rodriguez around the track, and maybe that's true. And we saw in 2022, Brisnet definitely favored a lot of those horses in New York and those New York preps, those figures from those New York preps, certainly in 2022 were admittedly inflated, right? And if you pay attention to the figures, if you're using the same set of figures to handicap, um, a lot of times when that happens and you're watching the race and you see the figures and sometimes it doesn't match up. So maybe that's the case here with this 105 speed figure, 101 late pace figure for Rodriguez. Perhaps that's the case, but I was really impressed with his ability um, to run out there. Um, he's shown the ability to rate. Um, he didn't close all that well in the San Felipe um, when he was right off of Barnes. But I thought that trip into New York maybe put him on the right path, and I'd be interested to see him in that first, second, third, fourth spot to hit the board in the Derby, and he'll definitely be one of my keys coming off of that 101 late pace figure um, in the Wood Memorial. Sovereignty, like I said, yeah, I think we're going to get a really nice price on him. I think we're looking at 6 or 7 to 1, to be honest, because um, he lost the Florida Derby, um, but his pattern here, I think, is shaping up to be a nice one, and he's definitely sitting on a really good move forward. He's going to get his regular rider and Junior Alvarado back, and nothing against Manny Franco. I mean, Manny's been on an absolute tear over the last couple of weeks, but I think there are a lot of things going against Sovereignty in that Florida Derby, and not having his regular rider was one of them. But he still delivered, uh, pretty decent figures. 97 late pace figure for Sovereignty in that Florida Derby, um, and I think he's going to be right up in the mix there. He has that S type, um, that S type running style, which you know kind of puts you a little bit towards the back of the field. But my gut kind of tells me he's going to be mid pack and kind of keep everybody within striking distance. And he's got a solid enough late run, good tactical speed to be a serious player um, to hit the board here in the Derby. Final Gambit, this horse coming out of the Jeff Ruby at Turfway. You want a couple of knocks on him. Like, let's be honest, horse hasn't ever run on dirt before, but his workouts have, have looked pretty incredible, and he just wants to run and run and run in a 112 late pace figure um, for Final Gambit in that Jeff Ruby stakes is enough for me to consider him as one of those horses that is going to kind of lug up and kind of hit the board at big odds. There's been some chatter about this horse over the last couple of weeks, and maybe that drops his odds a little bit, but I think when you're looking at a horse that took 3 tries to break his maiden, wins a grade 3, the Jeff Ruby, and has never run on dirt before. Um, I think we're going to get a pretty long price on him. It is Cox and Juddmonte, but um, I think we're looking at a good price here, and that'll be one of those kind of long shot bombs that I'll talk about in the next 2 weeks. That I think is liable to perhaps bring an upset and also um, be in the mix in your exotic um, in your exotic wagering that I would be certainly be very interested in. Grande is another one. I thought his Wood Memorial was really good. Again, was kind of up and in the mix early, which is why I'm kind of that E running style, you know, sure, sure. I guess it makes sense, but I would really put this horse at like an EP, that likes to just sit right off the leaders and make a nice move and try and run everybody off their feet. His Wood Memorial was really impressive. He was only a length or two off the pace setters. Kind of lost a little bit of ground there heading into the stretch, and was still able to pick up a little bit of ground. And if you believe that Rodriguez was aided by some pace, that early speed was that front end speed was carrying, then Grande's performance looks even a little bit more impressive in my view. 97 late pace, 101 speed figure on Brisnet. And if he can duplicate that, I think he'll be up close enough where he's a solid late runner, and he should be in the mix as they are heading for home at Churchill Downs. So those are my 5, 6 top board hitters, and again, I'll be choosing 1 or 2 to kind of key in my wagers as we go through the next couple of weeks here, as I kind of nail everything down. But again, the key things that I'm looking at is that late pace figure and that running style. That EP running style tends to do really well. That S running style tends to do really well in the Derby. You want a horse that is going to be, somewhere in the front half of the field for the most part, right? There's so much traffic, there's so much action happening that, last year Sierra Leone is a perfect example of that, right? You just had too much to do and you couldn't get there. So I think those horses that like to be in the front half of the field are able to have a good position and make a big move around the far turn, and kind of have a little bit of guts to get into some traffic and make their way through traffic. Um, those are the horses that you tend to like, and they also tend to be that EP or excuse me, that EP or that S sort of running style that tend to have a lot of success. And especially too, I think the pace up front is going to be pretty swift, and that sets it up for these types even more. So that's why I'm leaning on these horses to be in the money, running style, and their late pace figures on Brisnet. So Journalism, Sovereignty, Final Gambit, Rodriguez, Grande, and Baeza/Cole Battle are my top 6 Kentucky Derby board hitters for 2025. That's it. Nice, quick, and easy on a holiday morning. Let me know what you think. Do you agree? Do you not agree? Who do you think is going to be in the money, hitting the board on Kentucky Derby Day? Let me know in the comments. The comments have been great. Hopefully, there's not a lot of sniffling, not a lot of snorting, like I've been accused of doing on the show. Just a lot of chip bag crumbling in the back from my dad, who's in town and sticking around for the next couple of weeks so we can watch the Derby together. Anyway, those are my board hitters. Let me know who you think, and we'll see you guys next week.
And they're off in the Kentucky Derby.
For some, they say it's the most exciting 2 minutes in sports. For us, it's about potential financial opportunities. Never bring a knife to a gunfight, and make no mistake, big money is up for grabs, and this is a fight. Never settle for second best. The Past the Wire annual Kentucky Derby seminar. Nobody does it better. Preparation is key. Be better prepared, delve deeper, stealth. They won't see us coming, and they won't know we're there. Money management, ticket structure, pace, all the intangibles, thoroughgraph, everything that matters to make it count, to have that edge. In the end, if things go as planned, it'll be like we stole the money.